Hey guys, so I figured I would come on and make a video for flat earthers. So this will be kind of a, I guess, like a friendly challenge or debate or offer of a debate for something that I think that the flat earth idea of the moon is slightly incorrect. Now, flat earthers have a few ideas that they claim about the moon, which is against the heliocentric model. I already say right now that I don't believe or subscribe to the heliocentric model anymore. I've already gone through that, proving that it's not a ball. So this isn't even anything about that. This is simply about the moon and maybe the sun and kind of what I feel is how they kind of a little more about what they work or how they work. Since I've put in about 3 years of observing the moon, not quite on an exact daily basis, but on a quite regular basis. Now, when I first started the observations of the moon, I went at it with the flat earth idea that, so real quick, the flat earth idea is obviously that the sun and the moon are not what we're told. The sun is not 93 million miles away, and the moon is not 250,000 miles away, which obviously it's not. You can do some observation, you can do a few experiments to prove to yourself that they're not. But flat earthers also think that the moon creates its own light, that it's not the sun's light that we see on the moon, and that the moon or the light that is coming off the moon is a cold light, and that it's kind of like, the sun is the heater and the moon is the air conditioner. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably end up making a few videos, only because I have to make these 15 minutes long, and I want to try to fully explain my theory based off the observations that I've done the last few years. And so I'll try to quickly just kind of throw out my theory, and then I'll go back and try to explain in greater detail why I think that, or why I came to that conclusion. And so my theory is that the moon is a ball, that it's, not in outer space. It is up in an area of the sky that we can't really get to. And I think that I'm going to claim that the light of the moon is from the sun, that the sun simply illuminates the moon. I'm not going to say that, the sunlight reflects off the moon, because I don't think it reflects off the moon. I think it just simply illuminates the moon and we see it. I think that whatever the sun and the moon are in, it kind of adds to the mystery of the way that the moon works, or the light that we see off of it works, or the shadows. And that it's simply, you have the sun up there is just a giant light bulb, and the moon is a ball up in the same area. And so, the moon is simply illuminated by the sun's light, and then we see the moon. Now, I don't think that the light of the moon, or the moon coming off the light coming off the moon is cold. The moon does create a cooling effect, but it's not the light of the moon. It is simply the moon itself creating a cooling effect. It's more like a radiating effect. It isn't the light. The light has nothing to do with it. It's simply just the moon creating this cooling effect. Now, So when we have full moons, depending on where you are in the world, that is not necessarily going to be, say, the coolest or coldest moon phase of the cycle. It would depend on when the moon is more directly above your location in the world that you're going to feel the greatest effect from the moon. And throughout the year, it'll actually be different moon phases to when the moon is directly above you, because again, the light of the moon is from the sun, and as the sun changes its location through the year, going further south and then back in north, it actually changes when certain moon phases come out, when the moon is in a certain moon phase. I've watched this the last few years, like I said, and I watched how, as the sun went out, it would actually change the moon phases. Another thing I was also observing is the idea that Flat Earth says that, the lit side of the moon doesn't line up to where the sun is. That for some reason it's aiming off to a different, a slightly different direction. And I actually had a little discussion with Karen B during one of her and Brian Stavely's videos that they were doing. So, quick shout out to Karen B, Brian Stavely. I think you guys do great work. Love your shows. Not trying to talk any crap about you guys or anybody else. That's not the whole thing about this. I'm trying to throw out some observations, hoping that, a smarter flat earther will actually take the observations and kind of run with it and maybe make something out of it or go somewheres with it, because I just have the observations. I don't really know what all it really means. But anyway, so she had actually, during a conversation we were having, I called in, and one of the last questions was about why the lit side of the moon didn't line up with the sun. And so I had to think about it, but by then the phone call conversation was over with. But so I told her at the time that it was a perspective thing, which I'm still saying it's a perspective thing. Because when we stand out here, on the ground, the sky above us appears itself or presents itself like it's a dome over our head. Objects off in the distance are further lower in the sky than the things above our heads, even though they could be at the exact same height. And so when you have the sun and the moon in the sky, and they're typically not in the exact same location of the sky, the sun would be off to the west more, and then the moon would be further to the east. And so when we're trying to line up the lit portion of the moon, you're going to have to take into account this illusion of this arch. So it's affecting how we try to line it up. We're not taking in this arch into consideration. You got to think that the moon and the sun, if you put them up to the same height, you're going to have the lit side of the moon line up with the sun. And so that's basically just it's a perspective thing. It's an optical illusion. It's kind of like how when we see chemtrails going across the sky, they appear to arch. They appear to make a big arch over our heads. But if you then take yourself a straight edge and you put it up to or in line with the chemtrail, you'll see that it's perfectly straight. And, it'll appear perfectly straight until you move the straight edge away, and then it'll appear to have an arch again. So clear, it's just some kind of weird optical illusion. Now, shoot. Where do I go from here? Okay, so kind of lost my train of thought there. The cooling effect of the moon. So the way I try to explain this to my children is what I think the moon is doing is kind of acts like, everything else that we do to create cooling, like an air conditioner, a refrigerator, a freezer, is kind of like a condenser, right? Condenses the air. You know, whether it does that through magnetism or some other thing. Is it actually condensing the energy that came off from the sun, so it condenses it back down, creating a cooling effect. But it doesn't have anything to do with the light of the moon. It's just the moon itself that creates this effect. Because the more time you spend out observing the sun and the moon, you get familiar with the way that the sun feels on your skin. You also get familiar with the way that the moon feels on your skin. And there's actually certain times of the year, it is usually, I notice during springtime, when the sun doesn't quite have its full strength, that you can actually feel the cooling effect of the moon. You can feel it on your skin. You can also feel the sun at the same time. It's an interesting thing. You sit outside, you can feel the heat of the sun, but then you also turn on, you feel the cooling effect of the moon. And it's usually, you know, close to a new moon phase when they're up at the same area where you have no moonlight. There's no moonlight coming down on you at all. And so it's more like, so if you're sitting at, say, like a campfire, you're sitting around a campfire, you feel the warmth of the fire coming onto you. And if you were to say, take an object like such a thing of cardboard, a blanket, a towel, you know, anything, and you put it between you and that fire, you're going to lose that feeling of the heat or the warmth coming from the fire. Because the object that you put between you is now going to take all the heat. And so when flat earthers want to make the claim that when you stand in the shadow, the moon's shadow, it's warmer than when you're out in the moon's light. It is, you know, it is, but it's not the light that's doing it. It's simply because you have the object between you and the moon. You know, just like the fire, it isn't the light of the fire that's warming you up. It's the fire itself. It's the moon itself that's creating the effect. It has nothing to do with the light of the moon whatsoever. Shoot, now I'm really losing my train of thought here. I tried to think about this so I didn't sound like an idiot. Now I'm going to sound like an idiot. But anyway, so I just wanted to put a quick video out there. I probably got more to say about the moon. I'll have to kind of gather my thoughts a little more, but I just wanted to throw out a video, kind of like a friendly challenge to flat earthers to try to disprove the idea that I'm putting out there. I'm not sure what all I got out there. I've lost my train of thought. It's kind of late. But, you know, I'm more than welcome to answer questions. You know, I actually was hoping to do like an interview, maybe a quick phone call conversation with some of you flat earthers who might be able to put this out a little more intelligent to the audience, to get this information out there. I think that clearly the sun and the moon are two objects that are up in some kind of an area. I think it's, you know, either a liquid, some kind of dense gas up there. It's that barrier. So when you see like the go fast rockets, they send them up there and it hits some kind of barrier. There's something up there. I think that we try to overcomplicate the objects that are up there. You know, I don't think the creator or God needs it to be complicated for it to work. So, you know, I don't know if any flat earthers, this is going out to flat earthers, not to globers, because I don't even want to deal with you guys. You know, I've already taken the time to disprove the stupid globe model. So if you really want to go off into that fantasy world, you know, that's up to you. If you don't want to take the time to research it yourself, I'm not going to get into debates with globers. So if globers want to post comments, make fun of me, I'm just going to delete them and I'm just going to ignore you. This goes out to the flat earthers. I probably had hit and miss trying to get this information out there because I get a little scrambled and can't get it out clearly. If there's any questions you guys have that I probably have clearly missed, hopefully I'll continue to make other videos to further explain what I'm talking about, like the changing of the moon phases throughout the year, how they're not always the same. But you're welcome to post comments here, ask questions. I'll answer the best I can. These are all based off first-hand observations, is what all this information is from simply watching the moon. Okay, thank you.